Welcome back, folks. We are coming back here for round two of standard action. Hopping right into things here, we got Chris on the left. He is playing red-white aggro. I assume it's going to be the vehicle subtype. Something along those lines, maybe dwarves, who knows. On our right, we have Matt. He is taking the mulligan. He is on red-green energy. So I think pretty sure we've had Matt on camera before. He was playing the same deck. So familiar with what it's going for. This, I imagine, similar to the deck we've seen many times on camera now, looking to get something like an electrostatic pummeler into play, pump it up, make it big, give it trample somehow, and just one-shot your opponent, basically. Chris, similar idea, wants to be fast, wants to be aggressive, wants to hit hard. He's going wide as opposed to big. So instead of going with one big creature, he's going with a bunch of small ones. All right, Matt has decided to keep his 6 here. Scries, keeps it on the top, and we are underway with Chris being on the play. So play is a big factor in this kind of matchup. Chris just passing the turn back after playing an Inspiring Vantage turn 1. Matt has a Forest. Could have an Attune with Ether, but instead just passes back as well. Chris, see a copy of Fairgrounds Warden in his hand. Has a Plains. And there we see Servo Exhibition. He's going to get himself some tokens here. There it is on the screen for you guys. Make 2 1/1 colorless Servo creature tokens. And then follows Matt following that up with a Sage of Shala's Path, I believe. Let's see, Sage of Shalia's Claim. There we are. Chris has a Thraben Inspector. Makes a clue. I don't think he has a third land, but he has a bombardment for the Sage. So Matt has no blockers. Chris comes across for 2 damage. Gonna put Matt down to 18, and yeah, sure enough, just passes the turn back. So no third land to be seen for Chris. Matt does have his in the form of an Ether Hub. And we're gonna see, that looks like a Long Tusk Hub, so that's gonna be pretty big. Yeah, Long Tusk Hub is a very good creature against this matchup. Being able to grow larger than your opponent's removal spells, very key. And typically going to just be the biggest thing in play most of the time. All right, Chris finds his third land now in the form of Handwear Battlements. And pairs that nicely with Handwear Garrison. So we have potential to see the meld of those two go together. That would be interesting. It's not very often you see a lot of cards get melded in Standard. I know for a little while we saw things with Bruna and Gisela, but Matt has already told Chris flat out he's not going to let you meld. He's not going to let Chris meld. So Matt, aggressive words being thrown out. So attacks with a Long Tusk Cub. So this is a good attack, I think. I mean, it is able to be killed if Chris does put like everything in front of it. Looks like he opts to put just the Thraben Inspector and a Servo in front of it, which I don't agree with. As yeah, Matt only has to spend 2 energy to get rid of both of those creatures. I think if you're going to put 2 in front of it, you may as well just put the 2 Servos in front of it. The extra toughness might come in handy. But there's a second Long Tusk Cub for Matt, and then a Harnessed Lightning being cast on the Handwear Garrison, which is a solid choice. And Matt proving that he indeed will not let Chris meld his Handwear cards. So a Smuggler's Copter is the draw for Chris. Debating on Fairgrounds Warden. I think it's a pretty solid choice just to take out the Cub for the time being and kind of negate that counter it has on it. while also being able to simply just block the next cub unless he finds more energy. So, and there's the Fairgrounds Warden. He takes out the smaller cub. Interesting choice. Looks like he just wanted to get in for that 1 point of damage. So Matt falls to 17. Finds another Ether Hub, so is now able to pump up that Long Tusk Cub. Sage Ashalia's Path again, coming down. Or Claim, whatever the card is called. I can't remember anymore. But it looks like Chris says, I won't block. Matt says, I'll pump once. I'll pump twice. You take 5. And he will get back 2 more energy, so he's back up to 3. I think he has a couple cards in hand. So another Servo Exhibition drawn for Chris. There's a PNLR in hand. I think I see a Selfless Spirit and a Smuggler's Copter as well. So a lot of good choices here. However, because of his mana, is only able to make one of those plays. He really wants to find that 4th land, as that would let him play multiple spells in one turn, which really lets his deck, as we discussed, kind of go wide, get that game plan going. So decides that he wants to play PNLR, comes along with her little Thopter buddy, and here we see Chris attacking for 2, offering the trade into the Sage. This to me indicates that Matt likely has a pump spell, and indeed there is a Blossoming Defense. So this is going to be disastrous here for Chris. He's going to lose his Fairgrounds Warden, give Matt back a Long Tusk Cub. Matt will fall to 16, but really nothing too worrisome there. Looking over his options here, does have the ability to make his other Long Tusk Cub also a 3/3. Yeah, just swings with everything and says, figure it out. So Matt is firmly in the driver's seat here. Chris kind of grasping at straws right now. He needs to, that 4th land will be a big help, but he needs to establish, some way to deal with this cub. Yeah, it looks like Chris decided on no blocks. Matt says, that's fine, you can take 8, and I'll gain 4 energy back. So yeah, it looks like that is what happened here. So Chris falls. Oh, that's 10, sorry, the Sage also attacked Mess. That's 10 damage, so Chris falls to 5, and Matt plays out a Servant of the Conduit. Gets himself some more energy. There is a Galvanic Bombardment. That's a little too late. That is much too late, in fact. But this will let him play 2 spells in a turn. There is a Smuggler's Copter. I feel this is just going to be too little too late, however, as he's in a very rough spot now. He is able to bombardment down either the Sage or the Servant, as if he decides to target one of the Cubs, well, one of them on its own is too big. The second one will just get a pump up from the energy and not have to worry about it. So, yeah, and Chris decides, I don't have anything I can do here. You'll take out my creatures next turn with your attacks that I have to block, so you win this one. So, Long Tusk Cub really showing its power there. A very strong card. It doesn't look like it would be necessarily. It's kind of innocuous, but once you get energy and it gets itself growing, it's a force to reckon with. It's really hard to get in front of that thing and come out ahead if your opponent has energy to spare. So Matt, looking over some sideboard choices, looks like he has 4 copies of Incendiary Flow that he's instantly putting in, not even really taking a second guess. Chris is shuffling to the front. Maybe separating similar cards. I believe he's taking out his copies of Servo Exhibition. I think that's what I saw. If that is the case, might be going to a more mid-game defensive strategy, possibly. These two players seem pretty familiar with what they are playing and what their opponent is playing. So, pretty sure, pretty confident in what they're doing in terms of sideboarding here, it looks like. At this point in the standard rotation, the standard format, these two decks have been here for quite a while now. Possibly in different forms, whether they add different colors or they change a few cards up here or there, but realistically they stay the same, the same shell, the same core. So these two decks, well known in the format by this point, so not a lot of confusion when it comes to the sideboarding. Looks like Matt just taking a quick look at his sideboard, see if he has any other potential choices, decides against it, and shuffles up for his game 2 here. Up a game. Got to be feeling pretty good. Got to beat Chris while Chris was on the play, and Matt on a mulligan to 6. So Chris must have kept a hand that, clearly wasn't super aggressive and didn't really have a lot to put up a good front with, or even a good defensive stance with. So we'll have to see if Chris can find a more either aggressive or a hand with a little more action that he can work with. But Matt I'm sure he wouldn't mind just finding those long toss cups again and going to work. Taking their time shuffling here, making sure that there are no clumps. Yeah, just going through every shuffling method as possible. All right. And we are underway now, it looks like. So players are going to take a look at their opening hands, see if they like what they see or not. I see immediately for Matt an Incendiary Flow in his hand. Servant of the Conduit I can see. I believe there was also a Voltaic Brawler. Chris, on the other hand, I see a few lands. I see a Toolcraft Exemplar, a Thraben Inspector. A couple Toolcraft Exemplars, actually, possibly. Yep. So there we start off on a Plains into the 1/1 that has the potential to grow. There he is on screen for you guys. Matt fires back with just a tapped Game Trail. Chris going ahead and playing an Adventurer's Apprentice, followed by a Thraben Inspector. So this is the start that Chris wants, hands down. Triple 1-drop, and they play well together. So that Thraben Inspector giving the Toolcraft Exemplar +2 power when it attacks, and the Apprentice a +1/+1, all thanks to that clue it made on its enter to the battlefield. So Matt is going to need to find something now, otherwise he risks getting run over here. There we see an Incendiary Flow taking care of the Adventurer's Apprentice. I don't know if I like that over the Toolcraft Exemplar. The Apprentice does less damage. Not entirely sure. I mean, could have his own idea of what he has in mind. Probably it is easier to trade with the Toolcraft Exemplar, as 2 toughness is less. But there we see another copy of Exemplar. And we're going to see the Thraben Inspector alongside the first Exemplar come in for 4 damage. Matt down to 13 going into his turn 3. He's really going to want to have a creature in play this turn to kind of stymie this bleeding. Otherwise, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. There we see an Ether Hub. Okay, there's a Voltaic Brawler. So that's able to trade with one of the Toolcraft Exemplars. but not able to beat it on its own. So there's the handwear battlements out of Chris. Just plops out a Fairground Warden, takes care of Voltaic Brawler, attacks for 7 damage. This is gonna put Matt to 6. This is the curve that Chris wants every game, especially on the play, where you get to go 1 drop, 1 drop, 1 drop, 3 drop, you're dead. Matt gonna play on here. Has a second copy of Ether Hub. Deciding what he wants to do here. He's gonna have to come up with something, otherwise he's gonna be in a lot of trouble. Already is in a lot of trouble. Gonna be in more trouble if he doesn't. There is a second copy of Voltaic Brawler. So Chris does have a copy of PNLR in his hand, which will turn off this 1 blocker for Matt. I think even without the blocker, though, no, I guess the PA is required here. Yeah, the game should be over unless Matt has some sort of removal spell to take down one of these creatures. But yeah, we're going to see PNLR come out here. Bring her Thopter along with her. And I imagine we're going to see Chris sacrifice probably the clue to make the Voltaic Brawler not be able to block this turn. Okay, looks like he does in fact have a removal spell in the form of Harness Lightning. This, I imagine, is in response to the trigger, so it's still going to be a 1/1, which means he only needs to use 1 energy instead of 3, or 2 in this case, which is very important. There we see the attack for 3. Interesting, as Chris is giving him the choice of blocking here. Okay. Alright, blocks, damage resolves, down goes both creatures. Chris taking a less aggressive approach. Okay, well, Needle Spires is huge, as that's going to just end the game next turn on its own. Pretty much. Yeah, I don't know what Matt could draw out of this. Short of a board wipe that I don't think his deck has access to. There's not a lot for him to do here. Incendiary Flow on the Fairgrounds is a good start, as that does bring back his blocker in the form of Voltaic Brawler, gets him some more energy. But again, 1 blocker will not be enough, as Chris does have the ability to make a creature not block. Okay, there we see a Servant of the Conduit. So he does have 2 blockers. Okay. Now Chris, I believe, is playing off the top of his deck right now. So he does only have the 1 card to turn. There's a copy of Captain's Claws. We'll bring that one up on screen here. There we have it. The 2-mana artifact, the equipment that you get to equip to a creature, give it +1/+0 for 1 mana. Whenever the equipped creature attacks, put a 1/1 white core ally creature token onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So he's going to go ahead, put it onto the Thopter here, which is the unblockable creature. Come across for a total of 3. Matt will simply just block the token. No real second thought there. I don't know why Chris tapped all 5 of his mana. That should have only cost him 3 to do all that interaction, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Oh, he probably pumped with PNLR, actually, now I think about it. Yeah, the Thopter did 3, so that's representing... That's lethal on its own next turn with the help of PNLR, so... Here's an attack back for 4. Chris says, sure, I take it. I'm at 16. There's the Sage. Gets 3 more energy. Unless he has an answer to this flyer, he's just dead. He's making his opponent kill him, which I do agree with. He does have a card in hand, so he is red. Lots of ways that he can interact with this 1/1 Thopter or 2/1 Thopter thanks to the Captain's Clause. So I do agree with Matt's line to make Chris kill him, but I'm not entirely sure what Matt has in hand. Chris going to start his turn by sacrificing a clue, draws a plains, it looks like, to go with the other one he already had in his hand, unfortunately. So no action to be had for Chris. So he's all in on this Thopter, but this will end the game if Matt has nothing. Matt's explaining, I've got 1 card, so you can kill me, or I could kill the Thopter. It comes down to what you have. So I think if I'm Chris, I just swing here regardless. This looks to be Pia pumping the Thopter. Chris attacks for 3, makes his core ally token. Matt blocks the core, and oh wow, he does have the spell. Okay, no, he does not. Okay. Bluffs it out, drops the Attune with Ether. He's got nothing. Here we go. On to game 3. Chris with a very aggressive start. However, Matt was not far off from getting back into that game. One more timely removal spell, and that game was maybe not in his favor because the Needle Spires is still there, but he's in a very good spot. So Matt will now have the play for the first time this series. So we'll see if he can make use of that. I don't believe he's able to have as aggressive as a start as Chris just put up there. He doesn't play 1-drop creatures. I know Cody was playing for a little while the Bomat Courier, which I don't agree with, but we'll see what Matt can do. He really wants to have that turn 2 Voltaic Brawler, turn 2 Long Tusk Cub, possibly even the turn 2 Sage. Something along those lines to make sure that he has his feet on the ground and he starts off running. Chris, on the other hand, is going to want to have basically the exact same start as last time. If he can go 1-drop, 1-drop, 1-drop on turn 2, he's in a very good spot typically. Assuming those 1-drops, work well together. So, the ones he had last time, Thraben Inspector, Inventor's Apprentice, and Toolcraft Exemplar, all 3 combined, very helpful thanks to that Inspector. However, if he has, let's say 3 Toolcraft Exemplars, not as exciting of a start. So both players shuffling up for this third and final game. In terms of advantages here, I'm not too sure. The play is big, being in Matt's favor. He's able to get that aggressive start. I do already see a Long Tusk Cub and 2 lands, a Servant. So he's going to have a decent start here. Chris can have a much more aggressive, as I've already talked about. And I think if he's able to do that, it bodes well for his chances. So we see Matt start on a Forest. Hasn't had the turn 1 Attune with Ether, unfortunately, but Chris has nothing of his own, so he's just we're gonna see a Servant of the Conduit come down for Matt here. I do like this over the Long Tusk Cub, as without energy, the Cub cannot protect itself, and he's already seen Galvanic Bombardment out of Chris, So he does want to play around that and make sure he doesn't get his cub killed before he can protect it. Chris going to have a turn 2 Smuggler's Copter. Here we're going to see the Attune with Ether for Matt. Going to get himself possibly a Forest. Looks like, yeah, let's get a Forest. Going to gain 2 energy. I imagine we see the cub come down now with that Forest being played from his hand. That'll give him the ability to protect his cub twice with the help of 4 energy. So, okay. Starts off by attacking for 2, dropping Chris down to 18. So first blood has been drawn, and sure enough, there is that long tusk cub. Now feels safe enough to deploy it. And we'll see if this cub can take over this game 3 like it did game 1. Looks like he does have a copy of Servo Exhibition in his hand. And that's what we're going to see cast here. So he's going to get himself 2 Servo blockers. These are good against the cub, as the cub does not have trample, of course. It simply is just a beater. And here we see the Servo crew the copter come across for 3. Matt's going to fall to 17. Chris will get a look at a loot off the top of his deck. Discards a Thraben Inspector. And passes the turn back to Matt. Matt deciding what he wants to do here. Starts his turn with another Attune with Ether. So making sure he does not miss his land drops, getting the energy he needs to go with that cub. Up to 6 now, in fact, so lots of energy to work with. Potential 5/5 cub. Plays the Forest he grabbed. Does have a copy of Arlencord and a copy of Bristling Hydra in hand, so really needed to have his 4th land here. I think he was kind of forced to get it off the Attune with Ether, but no, I guess he's able to go ahead and play it after combat here. So he's going to pump the cub twice, makes it a 4/4. Chris is going to fall down to 14. Matt will get back 2 of that energy thanks to the cub connecting. Here we're going to see, I imagine, either the Hydra or the Arlencord. Decides on the Hydra, gets 3 more energy, up to 6 again, so right where he started the turn. But now has a Hydra and a 4/4 cub. Chris plays a second copy of Inspiring Vantage, this one coming into play tapped, as it is the 4th land he has. Deciding what he wants to do here. I believe a copy of Selfless Spirit at the forefront of his hand. No, I'm mistaken. That's a Fairgrounds Warden. Unfortunately, that does not work well against the Hydra, as the Hydra will gain Hexproof. However, it works very well against Long Tusk Cub. Okay, cruise the copter again, attacks for 3. Matt's going to fall down to 14 as Chris takes his loot again. Looking over his hand, decides to discard a copy of Captain's Claws. Matt dramatically draws the top card of his deck. Deciding what he wants to do here. This could be a 3rd copy of Attune with Ether. No, it looks like he has a different option instead. Looks like we have a Nature's Way. So that is an interesting card. There we have it. 1 and a green. Target creature you control gains vigilance and trample until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Bristling Hydra is now a 4/3 trample, vigilant, and able to gain hexproof. Blocks the Servant and says, sure, take 4. So Chris falls to 10. And there we see a Sage post-combat from Matt, gaining himself 3 more energy, now up to 9. Chris is back in a very unfortunate spot here. Did draw a copy of Handwear Garrison. It looks like there is a copy of Selfless Spirit. Yeah, he's casting it now. So there we see it. As well as a Toolcraft Exemplar. And an attack for 1. Oh, no, sorry, that's the crewing of the copter. My apologies. Gets in the copter, attacks for 3. Matt's going to fall to 11. So it is a close game now, being 11 to 10. But again, Matt's creatures just completely overshadow Chris's. Chris's only real advantage right now is being the fact that he is controlling the skies. But we're going to see an Arlen Cord come down. Let's take a look here again. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, her front side only gets to target 1 creature. She doesn't get to pump all of the creatures on her front side. Yeah, up to 1 creature gets +2/+2, Vigilance, Haste. So Matt deciding what he wants to do here with his Arlen Cord. Okay, looks like he chooses nothing right away. He's going to probably, in this case, make a wolf post-combat then. But we see an attack come across for 10. And that has the potential to grow. So Chris is going to be forced to block. I think it's fine to block with both here and just sacrifice the spirit. That way you only lose 1 creature. So that'll be an attack. Damage comes across for 4. Chris is going to fall to 6. And yeah, there we go. We see the wolf get made. Flip over Arlen Cord, and she is now Arlen embraced by the moon. Another copy of Handwear Garrison, as well as another copy of Selfless Spirit. Okay. I think Smuggler's Copter is now on blocking duty, potentially. He is able to kill the Arlen Cord, or the Arlen, which may be a choice you might want to look at. Let's see here. Yeah, so she's gonna... Okay, so it looks like he's opting to attack. Looks like he attacks just for 3, and it's going at Matt, not Arlen Cord. So she's gonna be able to give all of her creatures now +1/+1 and trample. I think this is just game. We have an attack for... It'll be for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 16. 16 with trample with the ability to make it another 4, so 20 with trample. And Chris can block 5 of it. Yeah, so this is going to be game here. Yeah, Chris just lining up his blocks just for posterity's sake in this case. This is game, so we should see the handshake in a second or two. I mean, I think if you're attacking with Copter that turn, you have to be killing Arlen Cord. Otherwise, you're just going to get run over. Yeah, and sure enough, there's the handshake. Chris did have an Angel of Invention in hand, so that was an option he had. Okay, looks like, yeah, Matt had it all there. Matt really was not in any trouble at all. So congratulations to Matt.